My name is Bishop Oscar Dace. I am the senior pastor here at Bible Way Christian Center. And as we do with every meeting at Bible Way, we open in prayer. So if you would be so kind as to bow your heads with us as we open in prayer. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. We pray today, God, that you would open our hearts, that we may listen and understand one another. I pray also for those who have been displaced, suffered great loss due to earthquakes and superstorms around the world. We pray for all the families who have lost loved ones due to gun violence. We pray a special prayer for Jacob Dominguez's family, and for those that have personal experience where they have lost a loved one in questionable shootings. We pray that we can be instrumental in moving our country to fulfill its creed of liberty and justice for all. We pray for each of us to fulfill the golden rule, that we may treat other people as we would have them to treat us. Forgive us for all of our shortcomings. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Amen. If you would, now it's my pleasure to introduce the co-chairs for this great event. Bible Way's own Regina Alexander and Ty Garrett.
Thank you, Bishop Dace, and thank you for hosting us for this important event tonight. We appreciate your participation and ongoing support for creating safe and loving community for everyone. I'm Regina, PACT, Beloved Communities leader and member of Bible Way Christian Center.
And I'm Ty Garrett, also member of PACT Beloved Community and member of Family Bible Fellowship.
Now we would like to recognize our elected officials and public servants who are present. Vice Mayor Carrasco, Council Members Chappie Jones, Sergio Jimenez, and Raul Perales, Chief Eddie Garcia, former Chief of Department of Corrections John Hirokawa, and interim IPA Siobhan Nuri. And we are pleased to welcome the newly appointed independent police auditor, Aaron Zisser. He won't officially start until October 2nd, but he has joined us here tonight to hear our community priorities, concerns, and ideas. We also thank all the faith and community leaders for being here as well. And most important, the Beloved Community Live Free team would like to give a special welcome to the families who have lost loved ones to excessive force by police. Lori Valdez, wife of Antonio Guzman Lopez. Vicki Caulfield, mother of Diana Shulman. Chandra Hawkes and Tiffany Montel, daughter and sister of Richard Harpo Hawkes. Kimberly Phillips and Andrew Phillips, mother and brother of AJ Phillips. Sandy Sanchez, mother of Anthony Nunez. And Sharon Anthony, mother of Philip Watkins. Now, unfortunately, Sharon Anthony had a family emergency and could not make it in tonight, although she wanted to. But we still wanted to recognize her and her son. Again, we thank you for coming And we thank you for displaying what courage and persistence is as you all continue to fight for justice for your loved ones. We love you, we need you, and we support you. We are gathered here today to discuss expansion of independent oversight of law enforcement to provide transparency and accountability, which is essential for trust, safety, and justice for community members and police officers. At our gathering in January, we were focused on this as well. We secured commitments from county officials and city officials to establish and strengthen oversight. The mayor and council members Carrasco and Perales committed to hold a city council study session on May 31st with the goal of expanding the role of the IPA, including developing a successful ballot measure for 2018 to update the city charter. So, where are we focused on oversight again tonight? Well, despite a strong start in January, the mayor and council members Carrasco and Perales decided to postpone the study session with IPA Walter Katz when IPA Walter Katz resigned and moved to Chicago. While PACT urged the mayor and council members Carrasco and Perales to continue with the plans for a spring study session to help prepare for hiring the new IPA, our elected officials decided to wait. So, we are here tonight to be sure to get this important process back on track now that the new IPA has been hired. And while the city council process was postponed, we couldn't wait. So we organized this event as a community study session to deepen understanding with our community and to gather your input.
We are also here to affirm our communities that we shall stand together against anyone that puts us or our neighbors under threat by protecting and providing strong local and state leadership for justice. There is an attack on Muslims, the Dreamers, the LGBT community, houseless people, and all people of color by those voted and hired to protect them. Our mantra is, one people, one fight. Un pueblo, un lucha, which means we stand together to protect our community. Join me as we say it together. One people, one fight.
One people, one fight.
Un pueblo, un lucha.
Un pueblo, un lucha.
While we as a community do appreciate Chief Eddie Garcia and the SJPD and City Council members for their strong commitment to not cooperate with ICE and change policies that are deemed as threatening to our constitutional right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, we can all agree that we've just only touched the tip of the iceberg, and a lot of work still needs to be done, and a lot of improvements still need to be made. Before we continue with our program, let me introduce our timekeeper tonight, Jean Barron from the First Unitarian Church of San Jose. Jean, would you please stand and show our speakers the 3 signs that you have for 1 minute,
2 minutes,
10 seconds, and please stop.
say please.
We ask all our speakers to respect the timekeeper and watch for the timekeeper's sign to keep our program on schedule. Thank you. Now, Gautam Bishash will present our PACT credential.
So we are PACT, People Acting in Community Together. PACT is a multiracial, multi-faith grassroots organization that empowers everyday people to create a more just community. Through PACT, people from different cultural, religious, and socioeconomic backgrounds learn to work together to solve the most pervasive social problems in our community and country. PACT helps ordinary people with extraordinary victories, not by speaking for them, but by teaching them how to speak up, take action, and engage in the public arena for themselves. PACT's volunteer, grassroots, and faith leaders work in partnership with public officials to improve the health, education, housing, safety, and well-being of people in Santa Clara County. PACT is multi-issue and non-partisan. PACT creates results. For example, PACT protects our community. We initiated and secured city and county policies such that local law enforcement does not cooperate with federal immigration enforcement in 2007, 2012, and again this year. PACT wins legislation. With our PICO California network, we led the statewide organizing for SB 54, the California Values Act to protect immigrants. Despite significant opposition, it has passed both the Senate and Assembly, and we expect it to soon be signed by the governor. And PACT moves voters. In the 2016 election, we registered over 2,500 new and infrequent voters and engaged thousands more to play an important role in winning affordable housing, educational funding, and rehabilitation of the criminal justice system. PACT has over 25 member congregations and partner schools, representing more than 50,000 people. We are part of a nationwide network called PICO, which includes 50 organizations in 19 states. Over 2 years ago, since Martin Luther King's birthday in 2015, PACT's beloved community team began a journey together in response to major national issues highlighted by the deaths of Eric Garner, Laquan McDonald, Tamir Rice, and Michael Brown. Issues of race, power, and accountability led us to ask, how can we move beyond our current reality to a place of greater trust and love? That place is the beloved community. With concerns in the community and concerns by police officers, PACT, faith leaders, and the NAACP organized a community dialogue to promote open and honest communication, to promote change together. And it was in this spirit we identified 4 major areas to focus on: transparency and reporting, implicit bias training, use of force, and body-worn cameras. And since then, we've held beloved community dialogues with 200 to 300 people attending each time, all comprised of diverse members of the community, faith leaders, law enforcement officials, and other public officials. While addressing issues of law enforcement and community broadly, we have been focused on SJPD and have made some great progress working with Chief Eddie Garcia and the San Jose Independent Police Auditor's Office, the mayor, city council members, and previously with the SJ Police Officers Association. Now Gina and Ty will share a few highlights of the results we've created together.
Thank you, Gopher. The SJPD is implementing implicit bias and procedural justice training, which our team researched and recommended. This is a major step forward in addressing all the ways bias can affect the treatment of our community. Members of our team are now leading trainings with police officers on topics regarding respect and trust in the context of historical and current community experiences.
SJPD established a no chokehold policy. This, along with Chief Garcia promoting de-escalation training, is expected to help reduce unnecessary uses of force by the police department.
SJPD has implemented body-worn cameras for all officers after initially resisting. When they heard from the community, they recognize the benefits to officers as well. And we will continue to work with the SJPD to improve the body-worn camera policies to provide more transparency and accountability.
Also, PACT leaders participated in the County Blue Ribbon Task Force on jail reform and continuing to push for the establishment of independent oversight of the Sheriff's Office, both in the jails and the patrols. And just recently, Supervisor Simitian introduced an initial proposal for strong oversight following his commitment to us for our January Beloved Community Dialogue.
And through organizing with our Pico California network and allies across the state, we won the anti-racial and identity profiling law that requires all law enforcement agencies throughout California to collect and report data about police-community interactions. Governor Brown said it would take an act of God for him to sign AB 953 into law. So, with our organizing, our prayers, our calls, emails, signatures, and our civil disobedience, we made it happen. So as you can see, our community dialogues lead to great actions and are used as guides for our work for policy change.
From this dialogue and these small group conversations, we hope that you are informed of the purpose and importance of increased transparency and oversight, so that the San Jose is proactive in constructing a community of safety and trust to build a system that is fair and just for all. This is our opportunity to set the example for the rest of the country. This is our opportunity to show what true democracy looks like. And this is our opportunity to show America what a community that cares about one another looks like. And we will continue to work on building true relationships and partnerships of honesty and accountability with our local city council and law enforcement to make this happen. Now, you will hear the testimony of two strong and loving mothers who have different experiences, but share a commitment for being part of the solution of change. Lori Valdez, and after Yemi Girma.
Okay, I have 4 minutes to compile what I've been through the past 3.5 years, so bear with me and try to listen with your heart, please. My name is Lori Valdez, and I'm here to share a devastating and life-changing experience my family has been forced to endure since 2014. On February 21st, 2014, two San Jose State University police officers made a choice or felt entitled to end the life of Antonio Guzman Lopez, who was 38, claiming to fear for their life. Antonio was a loving father to Josiah, who was 4, and Angelique, who was 10 at the time of his death. He was a very quiet, helpful, and giving person. He volunteered for 4 years every Friday at Antioch Baptist Church Food Ministry. What happened that day has forever changed our lives. I am so broken inside, and I'm angry and feel helpless that my children will suffer the trauma forever from this, and that there's nothing I can do to change that and to bring Antonio back. I can't even describe into words the unsurmountable pain one feels when an officer-involved shooting takes place of a loved one. The lack of empathy, dehumanization, and complete disregard for families in the aftermath is pure heartless. Every day is a struggle to be happy or find pleasure in the little things when your memories from before were of happier times. How do I move on? Our family has been suffering in the shadows of the aftermath. We are forced to deal with sleepless nights, PTSD, anxiety, depression, isolation, which is affecting all of our physical health as well. What hurts the most is trying to keep strong for my kids and remain positive. It is the devastating fact and emotional struggle of confronting the further injustices that the officers escaped consequences and were never held responsible for their actions, but were given a paid vacation while they destroyed my family's lives. They took Antonio's life, but they also stole my son's innocence and his sense of safety. It's a struggle, and I don't wish this on anybody, not even an officer's family. I try to use the pain that I feel, and the pain that I feel over and over again every time another family has to join this group nobody wants to be a part of. What happened recently to Jacob Dominguez on September 15th has triggered my experience. I feel like I lost Antonio all over again. And I cried for 2 days because of it. And it hurts because I see his 3 children gonna have to suffer the nightmares, the sense of not feeling safe, the fear every time they see an officer. I don't like my son living in fear, and I don't think any child should live in fear, but now 3 more little babies have to join that pain. I want you to know that our families want to help make the change happen, but we can't be ignored anymore. We walk in hell every day, and we don't deserve this. I don't deserve it, my children don't. And if we don't care about the adults, at least think about the children in the aftermath that are left behind suffering, and our community does not offer us any support at all. Nothing. Thank you.
My name is Yami. I am a member of Campbell Seventh-day Adventist Church. I live and work in San Jose. I'd like to share 2 things. One is one of my experiences with law enforcement, and the other is the reason why I'm here tonight and part of the beloved community team. On an overcast night, I was driving on the Bay Bridge. I saw lights flashing behind me. I was surprised because visibility was poor and I wasn't speeding. Regardless, when I saw the flashing lights, I put on my hazard light. I moved to the far right lane and I slowed down significantly as I wanted the officer to know that I had every intention of stopping as soon as it was safe to do so. I was both shocked and terrified when the officer and the speaker instructed me to take the upcoming Angel Island exit. As a Black woman, there was no way that I was exiting at night by myself in an isolated place with an officer. It's just not safe to do so. Though I was terrified, I continued to drive until I reached the first exit in the city. I pulled over in a well-lit, busy street. What I didn't know was that the officer had called for backup. And I was now surrounded by officers. And the officer on the left of me was yelling at me at the top of his lungs. I kept my hands on the steering wheel and wept. I thought I was gonna die. And every time I reflect on this experience, I thank God that I lived to talk about it. Now, when I think about police accountability, I think of my husband, my brothers, my nieces and nephews, the young people in my community. I think of my children. This is my son, Yosef. He's 15 years old. He is kind-hearted and thoughtful. He is respectful. He's not only on the honor roll at school, but he's received awards for his exceptional behavior and conduct at school. My son is nearly 6 feet tall, and that scares me. While I look at him as a beautiful soul, while out in the community, he may be perceived as suspicious, like Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, or Tamir Rice. And this is my 13-year-old daughter, Misrak. She is smart and creative, gifted in many ways. She's a spitfire who at 13 thinks she knows it all. My greatest fear for my children is that they will have a deadly encounter with the police. And this is a fear that is shared with many in my community. My husband and I have taught our children to never walk with their hands in their pocket, to never even hold their cell phones in their hand. We tell our son to never put his hood over his head when he's out in the community. We have taught our children to always respect the police, and we role play with them and practice how to follow instructions, never to run away from the police and never to make any sudden moves, because the only goal is for them to come home alive. Unfortunately, the police do not represent safety for us. We have taught our children that if my husband and I are not home and there is an emergency, they should never call the police. They should call their uncles, our neighbor Joe, or even our pastor, but never the police. This is the reality for me in my community. This is the reason why I'm here tonight and a PACT leader with the beloved community team.
So I just want to thank you for sharing your experiences and your perspectives. I'm going off script a little bit, but we need to build a more respectful and just community. So it's important that we all let their words resonate within us, to become more open-minded, to discover means to affect change. Yemi and Lori's testimonies remind us about the value of oversight for our community. So now we are pleased to welcome Siobhan Nure and Talina Barrientos from the San Jose Independent Police Auditor's Office, followed by PACT leaders Derek Sanderlin and Robert McGarry.
Hello, my name is Siobhan Murray. I'm the interim independent police auditor for just about 6 more days. I have been in the office since 2007, so a good 10 years, and thus I think I'm qualified to tell each and every one of you how you can file a complaint. Anyone can file a complaint. You don't have to be a participant in the police encounter, although if you are, I do encourage you to take action if you feel an officer engaged in misconduct. But it could be your mother, your brother, your neighbor. It could be any of you that read an article in the paper and was concerned about what happened. And it's pretty easy. All you need to do is call our office. We have postcards that are in the foyer. We have a website. And the process is pretty simple. You will be calling, hopefully calling, and speaking with either myself or one of my intake staff. We will be asking you a couple of things. Number one, we will ask for your identifying information so that we can send you a summary letter of your statement. However, you can remain anonymous. If you remain anonymous, we can still go forward with the complaint, but you won't get correspondence from our office about what happened in the end with your allegations. So if you call our office, I will be asking you another important question, and that's whether or not you want your statement to be recorded. I personally encourage complainants to allow me to record their statement because then it best reflects your words and what you felt. And it's not my transcribing or putting words in your mouth. So again, I'll be asking you for identification, name, address, birth date, how did you hear about our office, which is important for our outreach. And then I'll be asking you, when did it happen, where did it happen, and what happened. In general, I try to get their complainants to tell me their complete story so that I can hear pretty much a summary of what happened from beginning to end. Then I ask Then I'll be asking you some follow-up questions. And this isn't to be annoying, although some people find it this way. It's so that I can flesh out factual issues that are important in the long run. So for instance, someone might say the officer treated me differently because I have a tattoo. I might ask that person, where is that tattoo? It was on my arm, my upper arm. I might ask you, were you wearing a long sleeve shirt? This would be important for me to know, because if the officer couldn't see the tattoo, you wouldn't be able to know that you had it, and thus treat you differently. I will be asking questions to try to identify certain allegations. Under the duty manual, we have several identified allegations, which range from courtesy, something like the officer was rude to me, to use of force. There are a variety of allegations that are in between those. Once we identify pretty much, I have the scenario, I have an idea of what happened, we end our recording, and then I give you kind of a boring speech, which goes like this. You have now filed a complaint, and I will be sending you a summary letter with an identifying number, so that when you call back, we can make sure that we're talking to the person who filed the complaint. From here, the complaint will go to Internal Affairs, which is a unit of the police department. Currently, our office lacks any ability to investigate. But at Internal Affairs, they do have trained investigators that will be looking at your complaint. Firstly, they will probably be listening to your summary statement, and then they'll be doing important steps such as getting the police report, identifying witnesses, perhaps getting medical records, all the documentation they need to assemble. Next, they'll try to get statements that they may or may not need. Subject officers who may or may not be interviewed. If they are, I or someone from my office can attend. In the end, however, it is Internal Affairs that writes up the investigation and makes findings. Then that big pile of documents comes to our office, and we determine whether or not the investigation was fair, thorough, complete, and unbiased. If we think it's not, we will send it back to the police department. Then we might have some back and forth with the chief. Then we might have some back and forth with the city manager. At the end, you'll get a closing letter, which will say how the allegations were closed and what, if any, discipline was imposed. If you have any other questions, I encourage you to call us, to call me, to contact our office. Our email is on our postcard and on the web. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Siobhan. And unfortunately didn't get to meet Timothy tonight, but thank you, Siobhan. All right, so how y'all doing? You doing good? All right. So if you'll allow us, we'd like to just get right into it. We're going to be presenting our research findings for police oversight. So I'm Derek.
Hello, I'm Robert. There are 4 words we want you to remember. Audit is what we have. The other 3 words are what we want. Transparency, trust, and accountability.
And when you hear us say any of these words, we are going to ask you to clap back in solidarity so that we can feel these words and remember them in our hands and in our bodies. All right? So let's try this.
Audit.
Transparency. Trust. Accountability.
Very good. So this is going to throughout the whole presentation, our part. San Jose Police Oversight Model, as it stands today, and what we'd like to see, stronger oversight based on other models that we have studied in different cities across the state of California. We'll talk about the audit to the accountability. Very good. So the audit, by show of hands, how many know what the IPA is? Pretty good. Very good. The San Jose Independent Police Auditor's Office currently holds the auditor model, which makes policy recommendations to the police department based on the complaints given to them from the community. There are limitations to this. Because the IPA is advisory, the recommendations can be dismissed by the Office of the Chief of Police.
From 2011 through to 2015, the San Jose Public has made 683 excessive force allegations. Of those filed complaints, the department has found only 2 of those allegations merited disciplinary action.
With increased tension on a national level, it is time now more than ever to build trust between the community and the police. In light of these and the lives we have seen taken from us, we just lost one in the last 2 weeks, Jacob Dominguez. Now is the time more than ever to build trust.
All right, so the accountability. You guys are good. We are proposing increased transparency and accountability. There we go. By strengthening the independent police auditor's investigative power and the access to all police operations data, whether a complaint is filed or not. Transparency is the first step to rebuilding relationships with the community. Now, in order to achieve this transparency, we would need to vote for a change to the city charter. So we are working with the city council, the people you see in the crowd here, to develop a ballot initiative that changes our local laws to expand the structure of the IPA, or the Independent Police Auditor's Office. This means that they would have the power and authority to make decisions regarding policy changes and disciplinary actions alongside the police department and community members.
To paraphrase Sacramento Police Captain Zisser, professional civilian oversight of law enforcement agencies can transform organizational culture in a positive way. Across the United States, however, policing has changed, and professional civilian oversight could be exactly what is needed to regain legitimacy, boost morale, increase the hiring of diverse candidates, improve public safety, and increase trust in the communities that they serve.
Strengthened oversight will provide transparency and accountability that is needed by community and has significant benefits for police officers and for the SJPD.
Thank you.
So, our PACT team has met with each of you recently over the past few months regarding the expansion of the Independent Police Auditor, IPA, role. Because the IPA was created through a ballot measure to add to the city charter, the most effective way to expand the role is to revise the city charter through a ballot measure. The process will begin with the City Council's study session. We want to thank you for sharing in our meetings, and for some of you at our public action, that you support expanding the role of the IPA to provide greater transparency and accountability, which is essential for trust and safety for both community members and police officers. Thanks for your support in investing funds to strengthen independent oversight that will reduce incidents of excessive use of force, increase the community's trust in the police, and decrease expenses for expensive lawsuit payouts. We shared the questions of commitment with the police officials in advance, with the public officials in advance, so there are no surprises. So we will first ask you to respond simply yes or no to each question. Then after those specific questions, you'll have 1 minute to share more about why you support increased transparency and accountability overall. So I will begin with the first question. Will you provide leadership to schedule the City Council's study session for October and make it a success for educating council members about the various models that have proven to provide strong oversight?
Yes, but Aaron's going to tell you October will be difficult.
Yes.
Thank you.
Question number 2, will you support expanding oversight to include independent investigations of all incidents of use of force that cause serious injury or death, regardless of whether a complaint is filed or not?
I'm in support of oversight. I cannot answer that question yes or no until we finish the study session.
Hopefully you
Same thing. Some of these questions are a little bit more nuanced, and so same thing. We get a little bit more information.
This was
Will you support expanding oversight to include independent investigations of all incidents of use of force that cause serious injury or death, regardless of whether a complaint is filed or not?
Thank you. And my answer had been, I support that unless I were to find any other evidence that this is contrary to the health of the department. But I represent a district that otherwise would not report for so many other reasons. But I support that.
Thank you.
All of you are making your decision on that you will consider what you have heard here tonight as well.
Question number 3. Will you support expanding the role of the IPA to have access to all data about police operations, including DII's reports of misconduct filed by police officers, representatives, and all use of force incidents? Ooh, maybe I should repeat that. I know that was a mouthful. Will you support expanding the role of the IPA to have access to all data about police operations, including DII's reports of misconduct filed by the SJPD representatives and all use of force incidents?
Same answer as the last time. Absolutely going to support expansion. To what extent and what level? Where it's to be determined in the study session.
I would say yes to the extent it's allowed by state law.
And of course, I support it because I think transparency is always a great thing. And of course, the study session will reveal so much more, but I support it because I think it's best practice. It's good practice.
So will you join the mayor in providing leadership to have the city conduct a poll in November to assess public support for a ballot measure to change the city charter and expand the role of the independent police auditor?
Yes.
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 So thank you for sharing your responses about these very specific issues, including those that you will continue to learn about. And we do hope that you will learn deeply at the study session and continue to consider what you have heard here from the community tonight. Now we invite each of you to share in just one moment, 1 minute each, one quick minute, why you support increased transparency and accountability overall, why you think it's important for the community and the police.
Thanks first.
Well, thank you, and thank you so much for giving us an opportunity. Look, as elected officials, I think it's important to, it's good practice to practice transparency, no matter which department you work in. And I think that I don't want to speak for the chief, but I mean, we've had these conversations, and I know that the chief has had these conversations as well with a lot of you, and he's had it with me, and we agree on a lot of this as well. But in the 3 years that I've been in office, this is what I hear from the community. They want to see it from us. They want to see it from the different departments that we work with, from the different levels of government. So it's just good practice for us to be able to support this and support your efforts as well. So this is why I'm in support of much of what we're here to talk about.
So to me, accountability and transparency is important, as the Vice Mayor said, in all departments. I think it's what the community demands, and I think it's very important in everything we do. And in the end, you know, as I think about this, I think we're accountable to the residents of the city of San Jose, whether we're the city council, whether it's the police department, whether it's the chief, whether it's the IPA. And so I hold that very close to me as we make decisions and move through this process. One of the things I was going to express is the challenges in answering yes or no questions are always very difficult because the answers to some of the things that concern us are very nuanced. But I can tell you that I understand where you're coming from, having grown up in East San Jose and having experiences with our police officers that weren't always the most positive. Having been an investigator at the Public Defender's Office for many years, I got to see a side of some of the issues that we talk about for many years. And so I carry that with me as we move forward and make decisions. But I do understand that the department really is comprised of a lot of good people. You know, Captain Fong, Captain Schroeder, and a lot of other wonderful officers that do their part to make the city a wonderful place. So I think the solution to some of the challenges we talk about is really going to have to bring everyone together to find really ways to move forward. So I look forward to being part of that.
Thank you. I think the answer is pretty clear. Transparency in policing is key to building community trust. So if we don't have that, then we don't have the community trust. So I think it's very, very simple, and that's why I absolutely support it. I can tell you, being the only former full-time officer on the council and now sworn in back as a reserve, a volunteer officer, I made a commitment last year to open this dialogue, to be able to get the council more educated so that we could expand our transparency. And I followed through on that by requesting the study session in January. As we heard earlier, unfortunately, our IPA left, and that has delayed the process. My commitment is still there with you, as it was then, to have this open dialogue, and then to be able to put forward some really coherent and some progressive changes to our oversight model.
Thank you for being here and for your responses, and I want you to look out here and just know that we are counting on you and your leadership so we can have strong oversight here in San Jose. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And thank you to the PACT leaders who asked the questions of commitment and public officials who responded. And I also want to thank the families for coming up here. So this... So I wanted to make sure they said it to your face, whatever they said. So we are working to get this thing figured out, okay? So once again, I thank you for coming and being brave enough to share your testimony. We're working hard. So I wanted to summarize the responses from the officials. So in terms of having a study session in October, they all pretty much agreed that they would do so. One was a little hesitant. And when asked about support in expanding oversight to include independent investigation of all incidents of use of force that cause serious injury or death, regardless whether a complaint is filed or not, everyone responded yes, except for Perales, who could not respond yet because he needed to do more research. When asked about supporting the role of the IPA to have access to all data about police operations, including DIIs and all use of force incidences, everyone agreed except for Councilmember Perales, who does not know yet if he wants that. And then when asked about joining the mayor and providing leadership to have the city conduct a poll in November to assess public support for a ballot measure to change the city charter and expand the role of IPA, they all were in agreement. We still are a little concerned about how strong their support of transparency and accountability is, but we will make sure we have our follow-up meetings as we usually do and make sure we push hard and push for the answers that we want. Now that you've heard where our officials stand, we can now make note of what areas we need to push hard and what areas we are fully supported in when it comes time for you to make your decision.
And as we have heard from our elected officials tonight, we are expecting a city council study session on oversight to be scheduled very soon. Please keep an eye out for that date in October and attend if you can. It's important for the community to be actively engaged in this process, to be informed and to give input to our elected officials. Also, this Thursday, September 28th at 5:30 p.m. at the Santa Clara County Government Center on First and Heading, there is a community action to save the Imani Village School Link Services program, whose funding is being threatened to be cut off by our Santa Clara County. They stated they are working on getting a replacement in the meantime, but there is no set yet program to replace this. If you are an advocate for education or just believe in giving everyone an equal opportunity to get good grades, please come down and show your support, and please be sure to share this information with your networks. And I personally work for this organization within this program, and I'm at Santa Teresa High School every day advocating for our youth, along with my coworkers at other school sites. We would appreciate your support very much. And we also have flyers in the lobby by the door that says, "Stand up for our Black and brown students." And our CEO, Andre Chapman, can you raise your hand? He has some flyers available too. So make sure you see him or get a flyer available in the lobby, please, and we appreciate your support.
And also one more thing, we want you to get to experience this. This is very time sensitive as there is one more day to experience it, I believe. There was a documentary that included Jacob Dominguez. It was called The Making of a Gangster. So in that documentary, he talked about how he got to start living that lifestyle, and he wanted to encourage youth to not follow in that those same footsteps that he did, and how he basically was on the road to changing his life. So if you would like to see that, again, there's one day left as it was on the in a film festival. If you go to www.makingofagangsta.com or download the app Making of a Gangsta in the App Store. We would We think you would have a great experience watching that and really getting to know who he was without the smearing campaign that the media is doing right now. So we want to thank you all for joining us tonight and for supporting our next steps. And now we go to Pastor Jennifer Goto, who will lead us in a closing prayer.
So an invitation from Bible Way, who has hosted us with such incredible hospitality tonight. Can we say thank you to them for hosting? Also being mindful of the few people that set the chairs in circles tonight. Maybe many of us can set the chairs back up in rows as we leave tonight. Can we do that? So let's go ahead and pause for a moment of prayer as we prepare. Oh, thank you. So kind. Let's pause for a moment of prayer. A gift from God that we are able to pause in community together. We remember now those who have lost their lives. Those for whom police are not a sign of safety. Those who fear that their loved ones may not come home tonight. We pray for those who seek healing and reconciliation. We pray that we might build up trust, that we might see the humanity in one another, and value each person as all are worthy. On this day, may we commit ourselves to living fully for justice in this world, living fully for a beloved community that is bound together as one people. Amen.